The first step in this task is to paint the background. You can paint with almost any type of medium, perhaps not acrylics unless they were watered down, but certainly watercolours, tempera paint. If you have watercolour pencils, they would be absolutely fine. And if you're really stuck, you could even just colour in with pencil crayon. But I'm going to be using inks today, and in school you're going to be using liquid watercolours. And that's because these give a really bright, vivid colour, and they're quite thin, so you have an element of translucency, which is really lovely. But if you don't have those, any kind of paint usually will do. And the paper that we're going to be using is quite smooth because we're printing, so I didn't want paper that has a rough texture to it, as it may not take the print quite as well. I have masked my printing area and I've stuck it down because I don't want my paper to buckle, and I'm going to be using a flat brush. You could easily use a round tipped one, and you might want a slightly smaller one just to go up to the edges if you find it difficult to paint within the edges, and that's absolutely fine. Remember that we're going to make sure that we don't get any of the painting medium onto the silver, because if we do, we've way overlaid in our brush. And when using liquid watercolours or inks, you only need the tiniest amount on the tip of your brush, and you'll find that that will go a long way. So I have some of the yellow liquid acrylic ink on my palette, which is a plate because I'm working from home, and I'm going to begin in the middle with the yellow because it's so lovely and vibrant, and you'll see that as I paint it on. And I'm just working really carefully. You'll notice that my fingers are on the wood, not on the silver metal part, and not at the very end. I'm not doing a large picture where I need to stand back and use my whole arm. I just need to paint these relatively small areas. I'm going to paint with magenta. Now you would think of magenta as being pink, which it is. But these colours, when we use them, when we're using inks, you'll find that the colours are not the same always as primary colours, especially if we're using liquid watercolours, and they may use the terms magenta and cyan for pink and blue. So a little on my brush will go a long way, and you can see how beautifully vivid this colour is. And you also get a feel for how translucent it is as well. And my brush was only damp, that's all that I needed to pick up the colour, just that it be damp. You'll notice that every time I paint, my brush goes on the paper and I lift it up for the next stroke. So I stroke the brush, lift it up, and again, and lift it up. I'm not going backwards and forwards, that's called scrubbing with the brush, and it's not the effect that you want, but for two reasons. One, because it will damage the bristles of the brush, and also it will bring up what's called the nap of the paper, and that's the surface texture, and you end up with really horrible little bobbles. So here I am, just doing the last one, trying to get a nice even coat on, just taking it slowly with the brush. Now you'll find if you really concentrate, you can do a great job. But if you're trying to chat to somebody at the same time, then you're quite likely to make mistakes. So concentric circles drawn out with a compass and then painted in bright colours with whatever you have to hand to paint. That should be fine.